Okay, welcome to East Hampton Village Board meeting in May 7th, 2020. Before we get started, let me just do a roll call to make sure we have everyone here. I see all of our board members, Trustee Graham, Deputy Mayor Borsak, Trustee Brown, June is here, Beth, Village Attorney, Yu King, I see. Chief Tracy, are you there?
Yep, here.
David Collins, DPW, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay. Who else did I forget? Billy Hayjack, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Kenny Cullum, are you there?
No, he's not on.
Okay. Is he going to be on, Becky, do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. And we have LaGuardia Group here. Ready when we're ready to go?
Here, yeah,
Okay.
we're ready.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's get started with the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a reminder, if anybody has their cell phones, please turn them off. All right, Mr. King, are you ready?
I am. Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, we've been talking about the 1916 polio scare in the town of East Hampton. Everybody out in LTV land, I'm talking about 1916, not today, okay? And there was a health officer in our town in 1916, Dr. David Edwards. There was a health board in 1916. I told the town board the same thing. That's something we may want to think about in the future. Okay, here's what the town board decided to do in 1916. It was hereby ordered that no circus shall operate within the town of East Hampton without permit from the town board of health. It's ordered that all traveling peddlers are forbidden to come into the town for the disposing of fruits or goods without a license or permit from the health board. It's further ordered that no rail cars with manure be received or delivered in the town at any station or siding. It is also ordered that all organ grinders or other traveling musicians are forbidden to operate any musical instruments in the town. It's also ordered that the health officer, Dr. David Edwards, be authorized to secure a location and provide the necessary accommodations for the temporary relief of patients who are afflicted with a contagious disease. So as you can see, in 1916, they were taking some extreme measures. And the only other thing I want to say is I met with Landscape Details, who are going to do the gardens at Home Sweet Home. And since this is maintenance, we're assuming that that is permissible. So they will be starting to work on the gardens at Home Sweet Home, and this will make Trustee Graham happy. They all have electric leaf blowers. Okay,
Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
thank you, and have a good meeting.
You too. Thank you. Okay, first of all, let me just apologize for the change in time. We had a little bit of a mix-up and there was a conflict. So obviously we changed our time to 3 o'clock. So I hope everyone got the message and everybody that wants to tune in is tuned in. As we go through our discussions, just to let you know, it'll be on the screen, but you'll have the ability to call in when the time is right. And the number is 351-888-6331. So first under discussion is the Herrick Park Design Plan presentation by LaGuardia Group.
So Jackson, could you bring up that screen? Perfect. So good afternoon, everyone in the audience, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe and healthy right now. I'd like to start by just acknowledging what a difficult time this is, but also how heartening it's been to see that our communities have come together to support one another through the crisis. And if nothing else, I hope we come away from today's presentation with an excitement about how this park can serve as a place for the community to come together and celebrate how we were able to overcome this struggle together. So, as you'll recall from our initial presentations, our team has completed an extensive existing conditions inventory and analysis of the park. We then used that analysis to develop an initial concept design. The culmination of that design was a public presentation that was made to the community at the East Hampton Middle School back in December. And both during and following that presentation, we received a lot of great constructive feedback. And you'll see a lot of that has been folded into this new iteration of the site plan. In addition to reviewing the plan changes, our talented team has put together beautiful 3D views of key areas within the park. And as we walk you through the proposed design, we're going to be able to show you how those spaces are going to look and feel. I do ask that we hold all questions to the end of the presentation. We can certainly circle back to any slides or views that anyone wants to review in more detail. So the first area that we're going to look at is the Newtown Entry Plaza. Some of the feedback that we received for this area was to introduce seating around the playground and the court areas to reduce the visual impact of the courts from Newtown, without compromising safety and security, of course, to create a stronger connection to the middle school crosswalk, and to reduce the number of pickleball courts. There were previously 3, and those are now down to 2. We also provided ADA compliant access to all the play areas and courts, not just in this area, but throughout the park. So you'll see in this first 3D view how we're able to create a sense of arrival into the park. We introduced a sign underneath the canopy of those 2 existing stately elms, and we struck a balance really between the hardscapes, the paving, and the greenery of the plantings, creating a space for classes to gather or for members to just sit on a low wall. Next area that we looked at was an extension of that entry plaza. That's the Entry Promenade, which is really a space that links various nodes of the park together, the play areas, the courts, that main plaza, and ends on a flag and a promontory that overlooks the ball fields. The main change in this area, as you'll see, is that the football field is now oriented on axis with that alley down the promenade. This rotated football field is now regulation size for high school play, which will allow the school to play a portion of their home games within the park, which we're very excited about. You can see we've got a couple of views of this alley, that this is really about a procession. You move through the alley, through this seating, by the courts, by the play areas, out to that flag. And then that flag really serves as a physical and a civic center to the park. You can see in this next view how it commands a view out over that promontory to the ball fields beyond. The key aspect of the design were the walking paths. In addition to being an integral part of the circulation network through the park, we also mentioned in the presentation, we see them as an opportunity to create chance encounters to happen upon a rugby game or a tennis match and be able to have a conversation with members of the community. You can see how in this next view, which is looking back from the tennis courts out to that field, that these open field areas can really serve a multitude of uses. This is a space where, as you can see, someone could fly a kite. You could have a game of football, you could have a game of tag, or you could just sit on a blanket, as this group in the foreground is, and do nothing at all. The last area that we will look at is the Southern Promenade and the drop-off to the Reutershand parking. Some may view the drop-off as sort of an unceremonious component of the park plan, but as a parent, I can definitely appreciate how important that function is. In addition to acting as an entry corridor to that South Promenade, which is going to link Main Street to the long-term parking lot, it also acts as a hub for parents and coaches to drop their children off, to drop off equipment before a game and then move on to the ball fields. You can see in this next view, we've developed a raised planter seating wall here as well. Another sign that marks the entrance to the park and that promenade. And this area could serve as a spot again to sit and look out over the park underneath the shade of trees. You could sit on the inside edge of that planter wall and take in the baseball game, again, sitting in shade. Or somebody could sit on those seating walls and wait to be picked up by their parents. This is also a connector path that leads over to the privy and the tennis court. So it becomes a very important circulation hub back to Main Street. The last thing that we really started to look at was the phasing plan. This, obviously the focus is elsewhere in the village right now, but there's going to be a time where we have to think about timing, have to think about logistics, and obviously funding for this park. This schematic plan represents just an initial approach to how the park plan could be implemented. It may be that there are more phases than this, and maybe that we stage it differently, but the idea is to potentially develop the ball fields in one phase, one mobilization, to develop the entry corridor as its own mobilization so that the uses on the ball field can stay intact during the season for the school. Maybe for an opening, the entry plaza could get moved to phase one. I mean, those are all discussions that we're going to have. And then we viewed the passive recreation node off of the CPF lots as a third phase, probably the last priority of those three. So I would just like to say how much we've enjoyed this design process. Our initial meetings with the board members, engaging with key staff in the village, Dave and his team, amongst others. And then recently the community dialogue that followed our presentation became very clear to us how excited everyone is about the prospect of achieving this park's potential and really creating a jewel within the center of the village. We appreciate the opportunity to work with the village in trying to achieve that goal, and we're excited about what the future holds for this park. So with that, we'll open it up to comments. If anybody would like to see another view, we can certainly go back and we can discuss those in more detail.
Okay, thank you. Rose, did you have questions? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to LaGuardia for putting the presentation on today virtually. It was scheduled for sometime in March, and obviously things took a turn that we didn't see coming, really. And I appreciate all of their efforts in putting it together. And what we have is an extraordinary plan, and we can discuss further today about how we're going to handle it. But I also wanted to just thank the committee that's also worked with LaGuardia. We have John McGurk from BPS, the LVIS. We have Olivia Brooks and Ann Thomas from the Garden Club, Beverly Kazikas, and we had Sarah Minardi from the East Hampton School to represent the East Hampton School District to represent as well. And Molly Mamey, who is a high school senior, who also gave her input along the way. And of course, as we just mentioned, the village department heads, Chief Tracy, Dave Collins, Billy Hajek, and to anyone else who was involved. We really appreciate all of their input because everyone is a stakeholder here and they all had a different view and opinion and brought something to the table. And what we have today is really a compilation of all of that. So thank you to everyone for working on this project together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else with comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that LaGuardia was so easy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
We would say, well, what about this? And they say, yeah, we can do that. Or how about this? I mean, the whole thing was so professionally handled. The committee, I think, was at large very satisfied with the plan that came in. I think this plan is wonderful. And again, we may have to tweak it a little bit. I'm not exactly sure how, but we did hear from a resident who lives on the corner of the park. And she is a little concerned about the noise from the playgrounds. And, I told her that we had some plans that we were working on that might mitigate that, and we would like to work with her. But we're not there yet. So, yeah, you see where that house is? Yes, that one right there. She is looking forward to working with us on this noise mitigation project. I don't know which of the many different ways we can go. But I don't know, Ian, do you guys have much experience with soundproof fencing and things like that?
Sure. Yeah, that would be a start, looking at a sound attenuating fence with a loaded vinyl or something like that. And we work with sound engineers on those types of details. This may call for that again. Certainly vegetation helps. So I think it may be a number of things that work in concert to achieve that goal. But as you noted, we're always open to coming up with solutions. This plan is not a fait accompli. We fully expect that it's going to continue to be refined and evolve, and it's public feedback like that that's going to start to drive those types of changes.
And also, just to keep in mind, we did try to consider all of the residents that are surrounding the park and really try to locate some of the noisemakers, such as the tennis court and the pickleball and the basketball court, you know, towards the more central commercial districts, you know, adjacent to Stop and Shop there. So it is a consideration of ours for sure.
It looks to me as though these plans, the playground equipment is a little more, not as spread out as it was originally, and it's a little bit further from her house. Is that true?
Correct.
Has she seen this most recent plan at all?
I think she's probably seeing it right now, Barb. She, or pardon me, Deputy Mayor. I think she was going to be watching this presentation, and she was going to even try and call in. So,
Okay.
you know, but again, anyone, you know, we'll work with anyone to get to the right place on these plans.
Right. Well, I certainly think that the playground equipment should be better than the pickleball court and the basketball courts, because for the most part, children are at least, you know, gone by 6 or 7 o'clock at night, whereas basketball players could be there much later, especially in the summer. So I think we need to work with her, but it seems like that's a better option to have the playground equipment on that side for that reason. So, you know, we have to see what we can do to try to make her happy.
Yeah, her name is Amy Schulman.
Schulman, yeah, I got the email. And she also said something about a drive-through, and I was confused about what she means by a drive-through.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that either.
Does she think that that's a road? It's not a road, it's just a walking path.
Yeah, I think maybe she's thinking about the current driveway to the TCO shed.
Well, that's
And
and
the TCO shed is going to be gone from that location.
Yeah, I thought maybe she thought the walking path that goes so close to her corner of the property, maybe that she thought was a drive-through, but it really isn't. It's just a walking path. I don't think that should be particularly noisy. I mean, I understand street noise because I have a lot of street noise where I live, and I hear people walking by. You can hear their conversations in the summer. So I totally get that when you live, you know, close to the commercial area. That's unfortunately part of it. But especially now with people on cell phones, I have to say it's worse now than it used to be, because single people walking or talking like they're, you know, having a conversation with someone right next to them. But I would love to see us work with her and try to make it a plan that she's okay with.
Right,
That's
okay.
my only concern.
All right, I seem to recall something about there is now a gate in this fence, I think, along much more, and there was a concern about pedestrians getting access to much more through that gate, or that's not the case? Does anybody know?
It wasn't a gate, Mayor. It was people were squeezing between two different pieces of fence back by her garage. And obviously, you know, we'll fix that if it's our fence. If it's not our fence, we might fix it too. I don't know. But we need to work with this resident to allay her concerns. And I think we all feel that we need to do that.
Exactly.
Okay. And then I had also heard, has the softball field been eliminated, or that's still part of the project? I know it's still here.
Still there, right?
Well, we
Yeah.
haven't included, and until we hear otherwise, I think it's best to keep it in the position that it's in. As everyone knows, the school district utilizes the park for their gym classes, for recess, and then for their after-school activities in the 7th and 8th grade sports. And what the mayor is referring to is there was some discussion that the district may be installing their own softball field and may not need the one in Herrick Park. But I think that we should plan for it at this point, unless we hear something definitive otherwise from them.
Okay.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, that could change things if they don't want the softball field. That could change things.
right, because if they don't want the softball field, that might be a place where we could then relocate the pickleball and basketball courts
Exactly.
down to that area,
Right.
which could then leave the playground back kind of where it is,
Exactly.
and then have the area by Mrs. Schulman's house just as passive recreation.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking,
Okay.
if they're going to
Yeah.
eliminate that, but let's not eliminate it yet.
Not yet.
We'll change it their mind. But I just want to say, I think LaGuardia did a beautiful job. I think it's a beautiful plan, and I'm excited about it. It's sad that this year is such a tough year financially. I'm not sure when we're going to be able to get this started, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great when it's done.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I think I love hearing the fact that LaGuardia was so easy to work with, and you've done a fantastic job. It absolutely looks beautiful. I love it. It's great.
There is one thing I would like to talk about briefly here while we're on the subject of Herrick Park, is those tennis courts are in absolutely horrible physical shape. I think that they are almost unplayable. Some of the cracks in the concrete or on the base of the tennis court are almost an inch wide. You know, if the ball lands on that, you're going to get a funny bounce. If somebody's sneaker trips on it, we may get somebody hurt. And I think we need to figure out, are we just going to close those courts? Are we going to demolish them? You know, I mean, I don't really know how much use they get in the summertime.
I think that if I think the tennis courts people would use more often if they were in better shape. I agree with you. The condition of them is concerning, but I would be reluctant into taking them out. I do know a lot of families, a lot of kids utilize them. I know the district utilizes them for their, their sports and so forth. So I think that they do, and I think that once. The park needs some attention, and I think that once it gets renovated, it'll be utilized more. I think that we all see it as having the potential to be the hub and the gem of the village, as we just talked about, and not just for sporting activities, but for possibly other things as well. A real gathering place. There's the walking loop through the park now, which I think is a great idea that LaGuardia came up with. We have the structured things, of course, the playing fields and the courts. But I think it could also, change in a way once it's renovated into a real gathering place for the whole community. And I'm really excited about what we have here as well.
Right, but I think we ought to have somebody look at those courts and tell us if they think it's a liability for us for this summer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sure. We can do that.
Yeah, well, they're in poor condition, and it definitely needs attention.
Okay. Anybody else with any comments before I open it up to the public? Okay, if anybody else out there has a comment and you want to call in, again, the number's 351-888-6331.
We currently have one caller on the line.
Okay.
And so,
Yep.
1 second. Caller, you're
Hello?
on the air.
Hello.
Hi, this is Amy.
Hi, Amy. How
Hi,
are you?
This is
Amy.
Amy. I
Hi.
figured out how to call in. Thank you. Thank you for bringing up my concern. First of all, I think it's great that the park is going to be renovated or redone. I think all of that part is great. I don't have any issue with that. But seriously, the placement of the playground will be right on top of my house. And I'm a little nervous, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds shaky. I'm not good at public speaking, even if it's over the phone. But it's not that I'm trying to criticize the plan at all. It's just not practical to put it there because of the residential house. And whether it's children's voices or pickleball, doesn't matter. Anything you put there is going to be way too close to a residential property. And because for 15 years that I've had this house, there's been nothing there, that sort of maybe set a precedent for me as a happy homeowner. I sell real estate in New York City, and as soon as I see a playground right outside an apartment window on top of a school roof, I know that that lowers the value of that apartment. And it's just too noisy. During the day, it may not be as bad as you think, but the sun does stay out till 9 o'clock in the summer, and they stay out there all day. I mean, I live here. I know. I'm here at the house now, and I just know what it's like. So I just think it's too close. I would hope that you could find another location for it. I don't know the purpose of the park in between Muchmore and Pleasant Lane. I see that there's an amphitheater there. I'm not sure how that's going to affect those people. But the rest of that park is empty. And why not have a playground there?
Well, we can only use the
pickleball there, or
the property that was purchased with community preservation funds can only be used for passive recreation.
I had a feeling it was something like that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to ask too many other questions about the theater, and I can't see this plan really well because I can't enlarge it on the TV screen here, on the computer screen. I'm going to have to look at it later. But you'd have to come over, put your masks on, come over. One of you stand on the other side of the trees, and the others stand inside, and we will have a normal conversation right through my trees and fence, because you can. Trees don't muffle sound. Trees just hide my bedroom window from anyone on the playground seeing me, without my clothes on or something, I mean, I used to be able to make eye contact with people. That's how close it is. And this will make it more. And I hate to be a stick in the mud. I really do. I hate to be that one person. And I really appreciate you responding to me. You have no idea how grateful I was to get your email back. I have to thank Becky for that.
Amy,
and,
this is Tiger Graham talking, Amy.
Hi.
I'll be happy to come over. I think Rose and I will both be happy to come over with our masks. And we have blown up plans that we can show you, and we can talk about different mitigation strategies, which we will certainly test with you before we do anything. I think that, as we mentioned before, that if we are not going to have the softball field, we may move the pickle and basketball down more of the area by the Rudershan lot, which would free up the existing playground space for the new playground space. And maybe that area over by your house becomes just a passive recreation. I don't really know how we're going to do this yet.
That sounds interesting. I missed the part about possibly not having a field. Maybe I was trying to call. I called and hung up a few times because I didn't know.
I can just guarantee you that the mayor, the deputy mayor, and Rose and I will work with you tirelessly to solve the problem.
Wow.
Yeah,
mean-
we certainly
Okay.
want, we certainly want you to be happy. So I think since trustees Graham and Brown are on this committee, I think it would be great if you could speak with them and work with them a little bit and see what can work out. I'd like to see you work something out. There is some change in the playground equipment that maybe you haven't been able to see yet. That might make a difference, and with some sound attenuation, maybe that is what we need to do. But we won't know about the playing field yet, so we have to hold off on that.
I put rubber padding in between my house and the UPS store building where the TRX studio is, and it doesn't work. You know, I know for a fact that stuff doesn't really work. You'd have to build a 30-foot wall, and I don't think you want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like they have along the highway.
I think we want to talk to some sound engineers. I mean, LaGuardia Associates has experience in this, and they can talk to some people and they can say what they think. And, you know, we can, you know, we're not making any decisions today. And I will tell you
I realize that.
Yeah, I mean, we are all committed to letting you enjoy your house. You know, I mean, we don't want anyone disturbed at their homes, whether it be music or, you know, whatever.
As it currently is, and where those kids are next to the Stop and Shop, it is pleasant because from a distance, I can hear their cute little voices, you know, but they're across the field. And it's oftentimes the parents that I hear yelling to each other, did you get this? Did you pick up that? And, you know, whatever they're doing. And it's the people walking on the path that just literally stand there right behind my house, not knowing that that is a house. And they just talk. They smoke cigarettes or talk on their cell phones in a peculiar way. It's not a normal speaking voice, you know, because they're on the phone. And it is really bizarrely disturbing when you're sitting there just relaxing and then all of a sudden someone's talking through your fence and trees. And that's why I know that the playground would be exactly the same, because of the parents, because of kids crying, because of swings squeaking and, you know, everything. Because I have the experience. And it's unfortunate that the park is closed right now, or else I'd be able to tape it for you and, you know, you'd hear for yourselves. But it is.
Okay,
and
well,
it's nice.
that
but
point
it's
might be
quiet.
moved if we're able to move the playground down to where the softball field is proposed, if we're
That
not going
would
to put
be
the
great.
softball field there.
Yeah, I think our challenge really was to fit so many things, you know, since it's utilized in so many different ways in one property, from the baseball field to the
Yeah, it
softball,
seems a little
to the,
crowded.
to the tennis courts. And then also there was a desire to do pickleball courts based on demand and interest, and the basketball courts. The playground equipment at one time used to be where we are proposing it actually in this plan many years ago. I remember that. I'm sure many you do as well. And we understand that living next to a park in the commercial district, you know, there's some noises and so forth, and we will try to mitigate that in the best way that we can. As I said earlier, you know, when we were planning for this, we tried to put the typical noisemakers, such as the courts and so forth, you know, more towards the internal part of the park next to Stop and Shop. But if, you know, we get some free real estate and, you know, and not having to do the softball field, if the district isn't interested, then, you know, maybe we could switch something out. But I also think that even if the district might not want the softball field, there might be, you know, a need and an interest by the community to have it. So again, you know, we're looking forward to. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. May I ask why the softball field is there in the first place?
Well,
just curious.
The district,
does anyone use it?
Yes, the district utilizes it right now for their 7th and 8th grade softball team. And they have a lease with the village to utilize the park. So they're a key player in this design
Oh.
and plan as well.
Right.
So
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Amy, I
Okay,
think
I
it's,
understand.
you're here now in the village?
I am. I'm here.
Yeah. I
And
think,
I've been here since March.
Okay. Rose and I will reach out to you and set up a time when we can come
Okay.
over and talk about this in person. And then when we
Okay.
speak with you, we'll then report back to the mayor and deputy mayor, so we can all be on the same page.
Sure.
be happy.
Okay. I do appreciate it. I thank you. And everyone who's
Thank-
listening or will about to listen, thank you.
And thank you for calling
Okay.
in. Thanks for giving us your observations on it. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you
anybody
for
else?
inviting me.
Okay.
Anybody else would like to call in? 351-888-6331. We'll give it a few minutes.
We currently have no other callers on the line, but the lines are open.
Okay, we'll give them a few minutes. Nobody calling in just yet, but we'll wait a few minutes.
Yeah, Amy said she had a bit of a hard time dialing in, so maybe other people are having the same issue.
Okay,
If there are technical problems where people are having difficulties dialing in, they can text "call me" to the number below, and that will reroute them into the call, and that should assist them.
oh, okay. So I should announce that, right, Jason? You're not coming across to them, are you?
It's on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Because I can't see it from my side.
Mhm.
Right.
Understood. It's a secondary option.
Okay.
Well, I think it looks great. I'm very excited about the future of the park.
Yeah, it's too bad it got this way. You know, I mean, it wasn't at the top of everyone's mind, I guess, so, but we're fixing it now.
Well, I think the most important thing is we need to take a serious look at the courts that are there now. And if we can't patch them for a reasonable amount of money, then maybe close them down until we're ready to start construction of the new ones. But we can look at that. Again, we're waiting for any callers that would like to speak out about the Herrick Park renovations. Okay, if you're not calling in, we can also communicate to us by via email. Just go on our website. All of our emails, all the board's emails are on there. The village administrator email is on there, so you can email us if you'd like after this. If you have any comments, we certainly would appreciate to hear from you. Okay, I think that's it for this discussion. Thank you very much to the LaGuardia Group. I think you did a great job, and it's terrific. It looks great, and this is just the first step in getting the community the information that they need about the park, and we'll wait to see what comments we have further, and at the appropriate time, we'll move forward with an RFP if that be the case. So again, thank you very much to the LaGuardia Group.
And thank you to trustees Brown and
Yes.
Graham for all their work too. It's been
Yes.
a really great process, and I think the final design is beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
It was a very instructive process. And Chris, Thaxton, and Ian, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We enjoyed working with all of you too. We're gonna miss you.
Yes, thank you to LaGuardia and to the whole working committee. It's been very rewarding, and I'm really happy with the final product that we have. You know, we'll amend it in some ways, I'm sure, but
Yep.
we're off to a good start.
Yeah, great. Good to see all you. Be well.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next up for discussion is 81 Ocean Avenue, wetland restoration. If you remember, we bought that property with CPF funds not too long ago. And I think, Billy Hayjack, are you here to give us a presentation?
Yeah, sure. So I believe Becky had provided you with a memorandum outline discussion of a meeting that occurred between town staff that work on CPF acquisitions and village staff. And I put together a brief summary of the property's existing conditions, some photographs, a couple of aerials to help you understand what's going on there, and outlined a few suggestions for what I think could be a good plan to restore the native habitat and habitat value on the property. So I'll just summarize the items that I thought were suggested, suggested actions. There's quite a bit of non-native material there. A lot of it is actually non-native and invasive. So removal of the non-native material and the invasive material is of the utmost importance, specifically along the shoreline and adjacent to the shoreline, in order to improve the environmental conditions on the property. There could be a cutting program to remove Phragmites. That's typically the easiest method. The least cost-effective, the most cost-effective method is cutting, a cutting regime. There is a couple of slopes and berm areas near the village parking lot, the main beach parking lot, which could be feathered a little bit to create a better slope and a natural drainage area that could move drainage into the pond. We could reestablish a buffer along the shoreline by removing a lot of the non-native material. There's a huge selection of native plants that are deer tolerant that would be well suited for that area. And I think it would be a great example for demonstrating to homeowners how a buffer could be reestablished without detracting from views. That's always a big problem when the zoning board is seeking to reestablish a buffer to a wetland. Most people are concerned about losing a view, and this could be an opportunity to show how that could be accomplished and used as an educational tool. The remaining portions of the property, I think, would be ripe for doing some type of a meadow or native grassland habitat. There's not many natives in the interior portion of the property. You can see by the photos, it's mostly lawn and bare soil. A lot of the grass hasn't even grown from the removal of the residents. And removal of other non-natives, which would improve habitat value, specifically the row of evergreen trees along Ocean Road, I think would be a great idea to incorporate into the plan. I think you could have paths and maybe a bench or two would be nice. And that's essentially it as a brief summary. If you have any questions, I'd try to answer them.
Yeah, well, I have a couple. I just want to make people aware. Did we also discuss trying to have somebody move the trees, and that was not feasible? Is that correct? Do I remember that correctly? Or
when the town took control of the property, when they prior to purchase of the property, the owner, the seller at the time, was obligated to present it to the town in a vacant state. And as part of that, they were trying to sell some of the non-native vegetation that exists on the property. I don't know how much of it was actually removed and sold. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think there was an effort by the prior owner to actually ball and burlap, some of the material and get it out of there. But I don't know how successful that was.
Okay, it just seemed to me that we had mentioned that about having the trees removed rather than cutting them down, and at the time it was not feasible, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Because they were so close planted together that.
Yeah, Ricky.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor. The owner did try and sell them, and nobody wanted to pay for them. Okay. All right. Some plants on the property were balled and removed, not very many. I think that as far as those evergreens go, I think that it would cost us money to take them down. All right, and we would obviously have to put that out to bid. But if we were to put it out to bid to landscapers who might have use of that screen, because if those trees were taken out and then put back in another location in the same order, the bare spots in between the trees would still be bare spots between the trees, and somebody could get a very mature screening for the cost of moving it. I have no idea what that would be. But, you know, perhaps we could, when we go to put it out for bid, to have the trees removed, if a landscaper could sell them to a homeowner that wants a screen, that would obviously make that bid less. So
Okay.
I don't know if there are any legal aspects to that. But, you know, again, somebody might get something they want and we get rid of something we don't want, because I think we all definitely want that area to be open.
Yeah, and the sooner the better.
Yeah.
I think that we have to remove them. I think the town the village has to take charge of removing them. Otherwise, we're going to wait too long, I think, for the town to do it. So I would propose that we do that. I don't know about I don't know if the bidding process can include that about moving them. I think, I don't know. I think we just have to put it out to bid to have them removed. Whatever the landscaper does with them, I think is up to them. I like the idea of, you know, obviously restoring the vegetation to native vegetation, and also having maybe an area where there could be benches. My one concern is, and Billy, this is a question for you. You know, I always notice when I drive down Bluff Road that, you know, years ago we had beautiful benches there that looked out at the dunes and the ocean, and now all this growth has happened and now they're looking at nothing but overgrowth. I don't want that to happen here. I would like to maintain the view of the pond, because that's one of the reasons we wanted to get this, is so that we could open up the view of the pond. So I want to make sure whatever we plant there is not going to become a wall that obscures the view of the pond. And I don't know enough about the plant material that you're talking about to know whether that's true, but that would be my one concern. I don't want that to become a wall of overgrowth that, you know, we put benches there and then, you know, in 10 years, nobody can see the water anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Buffer would be maintained, I would assume, in some way.
Yeah, if it was a grassland or a meadow habitat, it would have to be managed in a particular way.
I really like,
just to keep woody vegetation down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of the meadow in the middle, and maybe, you know, a mowed park surrounding it so that we could have benches and so forth. And, you know, I also am anxious to remove the evergreens so that we can have the open vista. And I guess it's our decision about whether we want to do it now and the village pay for it, or possibly incorporating it into the restoration and it going through the CPF restoration and so forth. I did ask Dave Collins if DPW was to do the removal of those evergreens alongside Ocean Avenue, you know, a ballpark figure about how much it would cost and the labor involved. I don't know, Dave, do you want to speak to that? Also, with those evergreens, it is true that we were told that they are so tightly planted that there are many bare spots that it would have to be replanted in that exact order. And you know, the labor and so forth involved, it might just not be worthwhile for someone.
Yeah, I think it would be an expensive proposition, and I'm not sure anybody's going to want to spend that kind of money. I know it's a beautiful screening, but, you know.
And the other question I had, Bill, is how deep a buffer would it be? A 25 foot, a 50 foot, a 75, 150 foot buffer? What is the thought process on that?
Well, the actual, there's like a small embankment along the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
And so the area that supports like hydrophytic wetland vegetation is pretty narrow. It's a pretty narrow band. It's not that deep. But adjacent to that area where you would have hydrophytic or wetland vegetation, I think it would be appropriate to have a 30 or 40 foot naturalized buffer. You know, I think that's, you know, I think that would be reasonable.
And that would be the filter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but
Okay.
Billy, when you talk about natural grasses and everything, would this be something that's mowed on a regular basis, at least in the part of it, or?
That depends on it. Not on any regular basis. I mean, regular, potentially either annually or biannually.
Right.
But would we at least have a mowed area of paths? So if we want to put benches in there, people could.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could have areas of paths that would have to be maintained on a regular basis, but
Right.
any type of meadow, like if you think of the fields over on Cove Hollow Farm Road,
Right.
you know, some of those fields are mowed like on a yearly or by, you know, every 2-year basis.
I think it's a
Right.
bi-yearly.
Something
basis.
like that.
Yeah.
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 Your Honor, I had actually envisioned possibly wildflower meadow with some grass paths through it. It reduces mowing, noise pollution from mowing operations. It's a, you know, beautiful thing. It takes probably about 4 years to establish. But I think once we got it established, it would be beautiful. It would have probably sheep grass intermixed with it to stabilize the land there. We do need some extensive regrading, as Billy indicated, in spots. And as far as the evergreen screen that's there, it's in my opinion that it would be extremely hard for a contractor to dig that because the plants were, you know, it's kind of, that was put in originally as an instant screen. And so the plants were planted way closer together than is normally recommended. So at this point in time, to try to dig those plants and transplant them, I think the contractor would probably shy away from it.
Right. David, are you thinking about, I'm thinking about the meadow that's on, is it Middle Lane? There's a wildflower meadow. Is
Yeah.
that what you're thinking about, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's near Amy's, I believe,
Yes,
the big open lot. Yeah, and that's not really maintained. I'd kind of like to see something a little fuller. You know, it would be a lot of work to get the wildflowers to grow correctly. We'd probably need a little consulting from one of the wildflower providers. I have found a deer-resistant mix that has sparked my interest a little bit. I've been looking at the field on the corner of Amy's and Panago also as a possible location to do that. And, you know, this would greatly help us because it would reduce areas we have to mow and maintain.
Right. And it's beautiful when the flowers are in bloom, I have to say.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge to get them established. It mainly because of weed control.
Yeah,
And that's the initial challenge for the first year or 2 years, is to really try to get it established without the weeds taking over. And after that, once the plants come in, they'll shade out the weeds, and it should go fine.
Would that require irrigation, David?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That meadow is
Yeah.
beautiful, and I make a point of driving by there a lot just to look at it because it's so pretty. So that would be nice.
If we
Okay.
could create something like that, it would be beautiful. And more than that, it would be a nice natural habitat for birds and butterflies and everything else. So circling back though to the evergreens, I think, you know, we have to make a decision about whether we want to be responsible for that removal or if we're going to wait.
No, I think we need to be responsible. We need to take them out.
Well, do
David,
we
how
do we
long-
have any idea of how much it's going to cost?
Yeah, and I spoke about this earlier, and do you want to speak regarding that issue?
Sure. It's work we could do. It'd probably take us about 3 days. We just cut them off at the base and feed them into the chipper. Disposal of the chips is no cost to the village. The stumps, on the other hand, we're going to be looking at $40 a cubic yard. We're probably looking at 20 to 40 cubic yards in that aspect, based on how big the stumps are when they come out. I'm really not sure. I haven't dug one of those plants at this point to see how much of a stump we're actually going to get out of there. But
Maybe
generally,
we
evergreens
can
don't
build
have to.
benches on them.
What?
On the- I'm just kidding.
Well, let me ask you this. Becky, do you know, or Billy, do you know that could we take the trees out ourselves and do the rest of the project with CPF money from the town? Is that possible?
You can.
How long, if we were to wait and incorporate the whole thing, you expect that it would take for, all the other approvals and so forth for this project to, be approved?
Well, in the memo that we gave to the board, I mean, the DEC permit alone for wetlands could take 6 to 8 weeks. Tacking on time to actually develop a plan as well.
Yeah, I'd have to go out to bid. That whoever responds have to get engaged by the town. Then they have to prepare the plan, and then that plan is used. We could try to submit to the DEC simultaneously. I personally believe the DEC won't act on it until they actually have a plan to approve. So it could take some time, a couple of months at least.
And the town is responsible for this portion of, putting the plan out, not the village.
Right.
And the question is how much, about the only thing we can do without a DEC permit is take the evergreens out? Is that it? Or?
Yeah, you could remove non-native veg. You could remove the, you could remove the hedge, the evergreen hedge. You can establish plantings. That's activity that does not require a DEC permit.
Okay.
But removal of plants along the shoreline or grading of the shoreline area, that's all subject to DEC review.
Okay, so is it possible that we could do the evergreens and do some plantings and do the rest with the CPF funds, with the town doing it? Or is it just not that much difference in money? Or we don't even know that yet? That's my question. Billy, do you have any idea?
I would say any plantings, I think that is part of the restoration. If you're proposing to put plants in, I would say that's part of the restoration.
Right.
And should be included in the RFP.
Yes. I think all we can really do is take down the evergreens, and then the rest has to be part of the plan. And then the town isn't responsible for that, right?
I would agree.
The town would be responsible for the plan, right? I mean, if we did the evergreens, we could do either. We could do the rest of the improvements ourselves, or let the town do it with CPF money. Is that the case, Billy?
I think the town should do it.
Yeah.
The agreement that the town and the village recently executed has a provision in it that the town will be financially responsible for the wetlands restoration plan.
Okay.
Yeah, so what
So-
we can do is go ahead and take down the evergreens, and then we have to present the plan to the town, and then the town will act on that when they get their DEC permit or whatever. And then the town's responsible for everything else.
Okay, that's good for me. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Yeah, I got one question, Mayor, on that. The plot itself looks pretty scruffy right now. All right.
Mhm.
And I'm not so sure that taking down the evergreens, which I think we all want to do, but I think that taking the, excuse me, I shut that thing off. Sorry, guys. It may just look worse.
I'll grant you that, yeah.
And so I think maybe what we should do is we should all individually in social distancing, go over there, walk onto the property on the other side of the evergreens and look at it and see if that's the vista that we want for the summer.
No, it's not. I've been there. I can tell you, it's not the vista I want. It doesn't look good at all.
I think we're all anxious to remove the evergreens, but it might behoove us in this instance to wait so that, as you're talking about, the whole property can be dealt with in one swoop. And secondly, there'd be no financial output for the village. If we wait and the town takes care of the restoration, they can incorporate the removal of the evergreens. And if I think I'm hearing from Billy that it could take 8 to 10 weeks, possibly, maybe that might be the best avenue, considering the big picture as well. It will be, I know we can do it in-house, but, that will still be one of our crews tied up for a whole week. And I don't know, about $1,500 probably worth of removal of the brush and so forth, the stumps.
And then it's piecemeal, and then what's left doesn't look very, very good. I can vouch for that. I've walked the property already several times. I would rather do it all at once.
Okay,
And
I understand that. I haven't been on the property since all the buildings came down. So if you think that's the best way to go, I'm just tired of hearing from people, when are you
I
going
know.
to get that property?
I hear you.
agree. I'd love to be able to remove it, but we've waited this long. So if there's the opportunity to incorporate the whole project, with CPF monies and just do it in one swoop in its entirety, that might be the best move at this point.
And I think we also have a physical responsibility to our constituents, our taxpayers that,
No, that's
okay,
fine.
so this might take a couple more weeks, but
Yeah, we don't want an eyesore
No,
going down to the beach.
You have a good point.
And
Okay.
Your Honor,
okay.
I'll agree with that.
Your
Right,
Honor,
Dave.
back to your original question, when you started out about the trees remaining, the deciduous trees remaining,
Yes.
there are a couple of trees that we could probably have a contractor move for us. And I have a couple of spots that we could use some trees.
Okay.
There's- Is there a beech tree maybe there?
Yes, there's a weeping beech. I believe there's a red maple also. That's fairly sizable. I'm not sure if we'd be able to move that or not.
Mhm.
But I believe there's one or two other specimen trees that we might be able to
Yeah.
earmark for another location.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, David, that red maple was one of the trees that the owner had sold, and they were in the process of digging it out when they hit a gas line. And that stopped that process.
Wonderful.
And I think that I think there are 2 trees on the property that are supposed to remain.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Well, one is out on the right of way. It's a memorial tree. And the other is that large cryptomeria right in the center of the property.
Right. That was Betty Richards' tree.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so are we decided we'll let the town take care of it with CPF money?
Yes.
That's
I'm in
my,
agreement.
that's my vote.
I
So
agree.
We're all in agreement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what we'll do. Thank you. All right, so next on the agenda is the tentative budget. Becky?
Sure. The Board of Trustees has been given the copy of the 2020-21 tentative budget for the village. The budget has a spending increase of just about 2%, which translates into $454,000. The total proposed budget under the new fiscal year is to be $23,411,000. So again, another slight increase. As outlined in my memo to the board, given the uncertainty with the COVID pandemic, this was a very difficult budget put together, and it presently does not include any large or major capital improvements, which would be any public works project or any type of major equipment upgrades. As you all can imagine, villages have a unique situation in that there are very limited options for raising revenue from non-property tax sources. There are very few fees, permits, licenses that a village issues where the village can go back and ask those applicants for, more money. So the proposal right now does propose to pierce the tax cap. It would increase the property tax levy from the current fiscal year to the new fiscal year by 3%. And the amount that you are being proposed to ask to go over the tax cap is just over $50,000. So in the grand scheme of things, the amount that you are piercing the cap over is a very small amount compared to, and as the village has done recently in other years when they've pierced the cap, the current fiscal year does not pierce the property tax cap. So again, there are some notable increases in the budget, obviously contractual items with either salaries and health benefits. But one of the largest proposed increases right now are the village's contributions to the retirement system through the ERS, which is the normal employee retirement system, and the police retirement system. That increase for both those retirement systems is close to $140,000. So that is a rather large amount expected. In addition, along with retirement, are increased payments for Medicare reimbursements for retirees from village employment. The village's dispatch union has a contract expiring on July 31st, and we hope to begin negotiations shortly to have that settled prior to the end of the fiscal year. One of the other notable funding increases is there is $70,000 included in the budget under the police department for the new parking enforcement technology system that you recently put out to bid and will be looking to accept. But again, there are some decreases in the budget on the expenditure side, which is a good news, is decreases in bond interest payments that the village currently has, and also a proposed decrease in health insurance. We are getting early indications that the insurance rates may be lower than anticipated. So if there are any other questions, the board knows too that myself and my department have been closely monitoring the current fiscal year for any potential impacts, especially on the revenue side. As of today, the village only has about $1.1 million of uncollected revenue, and a majority of that is due to the village either through statutory means or from an agreement or a lease with another municipality to receive those funds. So I do not anticipate any major uncollected revenues for the current fiscal year, which is a good thing, that the village has already collected, obviously, a majority of its revenues, year to date. So, but again, the revenue side of the proposed budget is extremely conservative. And I would also remind the board too that a budget is a spending guideline. And certainly as conditions change, whether they improve or they don't improve throughout the course of a fiscal year, that the board does have the capability to amend its budget. So if during the course of the fiscal year, revenues are on par or exceeding budgeted expectations, and if you wish to revisit possibly the addition of some capital expenditures, you certainly could amend the budget to reflect that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anybody?
I think we all recognize the need for a very fiscally conservative budget this year because of the uncertainty of what's going on right now. So I thank you very much for your work. I think you did a great job in putting this budget together and having to really sort of change in midstream. As we found out what was going on in March, you were already in the budget process. So I appreciate your work on it. I think it is a nice conservative budget. And hopefully, as things go on during the year, we'll find out that we have revenue that we're not budgeting for now, and we'll be able to do some other projects that we can't budget for at the moment.
Yeah, I had a question. I just got this budget very recently, and I haven't really had the opportunity to go through it deeply. But I noticed that, for example, on building permits, we're $50,000 less than last year's budget revenue or estimate. And if that came back, that would be where the hit on the pierce of the cap is?
Right.
It could be, yes. I mean, normally the village gets a bulk of its building department revenue off of renewals. And if a moratorium on non-essential construction continues, you may not realize some of those revenues on renewals in the building department.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I know
One
we
of the
did
reasons,
extend
yes, yep. The budget, was fully completed Tuesday. We were also awaiting for the tentative tax roll from the town, which does not come at least until May 1st.
Okay. Well, I'll have more time to go through it. And as you say, it's still tentative. So
Correct.
any more questions we have, we can certainly all bring them forward.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
And we will do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just want to also say that, yes, thank you to Becky for, this whole situation with COVID is uncertain, and I'm sure it made the budget process a little bit more challenging than usual. And this is a fiscally conservative budget for us. And I think that is, a smart way to go going forward. And hopefully, as you indicated, if things change, we'll be able to amend the budget in some way to allow for some of the capital projects that we all know are important. Some of the essential services need equipment. I know DPW has indicated a sweeper, that's been on, their request for a couple of years now since I got on the board. So we certainly realize that there's certain infrastructure and equipment that's needed, but, at this point, it's best to be conservative, and we can, change our course as things progress, hopefully for the better. So thank you again. And yes, I'll probably have some more questions going forward, but we'll discuss them. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, Becky, the fact that you did this all while you're quarantined with your husband and kids home, 2 thumbs
And
up.
the cat.
Thank
And
you.
the cat.
Yes, and a cat. Yes, thank you. 2 cats.
Okay, if there's no other questions from the board, I'll just open it up for anybody who would like to phone in. And actually, because I forgot to ask for comments when we did the 81 Ocean Avenue, you could phone in about that as well. So we'll give it a few minutes if anybody'd like to phone in with questions about the budget or the project at 81 Ocean Avenue, the piece of land that we bought with CPF funds. So we'll give that a few minutes. Anybody with any questions? We're just waiting for a few minutes. See if anybody's going to phone in.
We currently have no callers on the line, and I just gave it another test call, and it's fully operational.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Okay, that's it. That concludes our discussions for this afternoon. Let's move on to our resolutions and motions. Rose, would you start, please?
Sure. A motion to adopt resolution number 21-2020, hereby authorizing the purchase of tax liens as set forth in chapter 256-25 taxation, village tax sales number 10-2017, amount not to exceed $85,239.69 to be paid from the undesignated fund balance.
Second. Is anybody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. So carried.
Mr.
Mayor,
we
if I
have
could just-
one- oh,
I-
sorry.
Excuse me.
I apologize.
Go ahead, Becky.
Yeah, if I could just mention on that resolution, that is the amount not to exceed that the village will pay to purchase the tax liens. Since the resolution, we have received additional payments. As of today, the amount outstanding on the liens is down to $59,708.37. The reason that the resolution has the not to exceed amount is just we just need to make sure that those payments clear before we can count them. But just to give an update that it is proposed to be less than what is in the resolution.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Mayor, we have one caller who just hopped on the line.
Okay. We have one caller on the line.
All right, may I unmute?
Yes.
And
Do you want me to continue, Mayor, or?
No, excuse me, Trustee Brown. We have one caller that can unmute.
Hey, good
Go ahead,
afternoon,
caller.
everybody. It's Jerry Larson. Yeah, it's Jerry
Yes.
Larson on the phone.
Yes.
Hey, I have a questions and comments, but I'm certainly willing to wait until you finish your agenda. I got on a little bit late. So do you want me to wait or do I speak now?
This is just general comments?
Yeah, I have some comments and questions I want to ask about the COVID crisis, not about the Herrick Park or any of that.
Okay, sure. Could you just hang on till we finish our agenda?
Yeah, go right
It's not
ahead.
that-
Thanks.
Okay. Trustee Brown?
A motion to approve the installation of equipment at Georgica Beach to provide Wi-Fi at a cost of $13,310.95.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, so carried.
A motion to approve the employment of 2020 seasonal beach staff effective May 15th, 2020, as per list submitted by beach manager Jamie Tope.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, so carried.
Motion to approve the $28,535 proposed received from Whitmore's to remove 21 trees from Bannister Park. Please refer to April 27th memo from Department of Public Works Superintendent Collins.
Second. Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, so carried.
A motion to adopt resolution number 2020 to approve special warrant number 58 in the amount of $447,799 for the purchase of 2 ambulances.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, so carried.
Motion to notice for a public hearing to be held on Thursday, June 4th, 2020 at 11 a.m. at the EMS building or via video conferencing if necessary, at which time all persons will be heard for the 2020-21 budget. If hearing is held via video conference and published by LTV Inc., Channel 2022 LTV Public Access, call-in will be available.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, so carried.
Next, I'll make the motion to extend the bid opening date for the bid for the lease of Sea Spray Cottage number 8 to be held Thursday, May 14th, 2020 at 2 p.m. at Village Hall.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, so carried.
Next, I'll make a motion to employ 2020 seasonal paramedics, critical care EMTs, traffic control specialists, and traffic control officers as listed in Chief Tracy's memos dated April 30th.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? None, so carried.
And next, I'll make a motion to employ the 2020 seasonal police officers, Joseph Tringali at $24 an hour, Matthew Griffiths and Michelle Miller at $23 an hour, and Megan Harris, John Clark, and Armin Gretarson, I guess it is, at $22 an hour, as per Chief Tracy's April 30th memo.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, so carried. That concludes our resolutions. Jerry, thanks for waiting. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments and questions for the board. Thanks for letting me speak. So my question, well, let me just explain who I am in case anybody doesn't know. I'm Jerry Larson. I'm a candidate for East Hampton Village Mayor, and my running mates are Chris Minardi and Sandra Melendez. And as you know, as the board knows, we've been very active in our campaign supporting the business district as well as the residents. But with this COVID crisis and the governor getting ready to open up, as you know, businesses are really struggling, and particularly the restaurants. I'm wondering if you as a board would reconsider your stance on outside seating, since when the governor opens your stance on outdoor seating on public property. And the reason I'm saying that is because when the governor opens the businesses, especially the restaurants, there's probably going to be a restriction where there's going to be a capacity reduction within the restaurant. So in order to help the business survive the summer season, if we could allow them to set up tables on the public right-of-way outside the restaurants or alongside the restaurants, whatever the case may be, and also the retail food stores that you just approved with the seating inside, if we could allow them to have seating on the outside, Golden Pear, Sam's, I think it would go a long way to helping them recoup some of the money they're going to lose during this. Has there been any conversation about this, Rick, or anyone?
Yeah, we've been in discussions with business owners, restaurant owners, and those discussions are being considered. It's not as easy as you described. There are various obstacles, the county health department, those sorts of possibilities. Exactly where the seating would go so that it doesn't obstruct pedestrians and that sort of thing. So yes, we are in discussions, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that I agree. That's all common sense stuff, but it's not going to affect the flow rate, obviously, because you're just removing tables from the inside to the outside. So the flow rate for septic is going to stay the same. So I can't imagine there's too many obstacles that could be in the way. And you know, I know you need a law, but maybe you could do an executive order to get it in place before Memorial Day weekend, and then you could pass the law to follow up. Because if the governor, you know, obviously recalls his social distancing thing, we'll still, you know, we still want to help the restaurants recoup as much money as they can. They've taken quite a hit over the last few months, as everybody knows. So I just want to
we are all aware of that, Jerry, and we're doing what we can to try to help where we can. And there are various legal questions that have to be answered when the governor gives us a change in his executive order. And again, we're looking at it. Yes. Go ahead.
So you are considering the outdoor seating. Is that what you're saying?
We are looking at various options to try to help our business community when all of these requirements are lifted or begin to be lifted.
All right. Well, this is the time to step up. So we got to get it done. So thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
We all agree.
I think we all agree on that, Jerry. There's no disagreement here. And we've been stepping up.
Agree,
so this time to step up. The time is here and we've stepped up. Okay.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But you're in the position to get it done. So let's just get it done. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And Jerry,
thank you very much.
I don't know if you're still on or not, but in reality, it's not just the restaurants that we're looking to help. It's all the businesses. It's all the village residents. There are a lot of people that are hurting, and we need to get that money as soon as we can. And, you know, it's just, you know, yeah, I get it. But, you know, it's not just the restaurants.
Tiger, I get that. But an immediate help for the restaurants, there's an answer. You know, clothing stores, yeah, we can help them too, and other retail establishments. But restaurants, we have a way to help them right away. We have a way that they can have almost full occupancy or 3/4 occupancy instead of cutting it back to whatever the governor decides, which is going to be at least half, in my opinion. So
it's all in discussion.
Jerry, I think we're on the same page here. I think we're just belaboring this point, but we all are on the same page.
I think the bottom line is that we all agree
Rick, I didn't belabor it.
Jerry, thank you for calling in. We've been discussing how we can support the small businesses and the restaurants in the village. And in light of the COVID pandemic, we've also talked possibly about the outdoor seating and some allowance for that. As we all know, the occupancy of these restaurants will be curtailed to possibly half. So it is in discussion amongst many other things that the mayor has brought up before for the other businesses as well. So it is on our radar for sure. And we want all the businesses in the commercial district to know that we care about them and we understand that their business model is very different too than many across the country. You know, they really depend on their revenue that they bring in from May, June, July, and August. And certainly this whole pandemic has, you know, really affected everyone. And we recognize that, and we will be looking at some of our zoning code and possibly amending that in response to that. So thank you for your.
I'm certainly glad you're on it. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice day.
All right. You too.
Anybody, any other callers?
We currently have no other callers on the line.
Okay, then I think that's we're going to adjourn and go into executive session regarding litigation and union negotiations. If we need to reconvene, we'll notify the media. So I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Everyone.